Welcome back to the channel, Crypto Trend Trader, with a quick update on Bitcoin. But before we get started, I'd like to remind you it's not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. These markets are extremely volatile, so please do your own research and trade responsibly. Here we got Bitcoin. I'm on the 4 hour. This is that same chart we were looking at the other day, and we are still developing this pattern. I want to talk about a couple things that we had specifically spoke about that have extremely large amount of relevance now, after price action has continued to develop. We put in basically this first wave, came down retrace, put in the third wave, so it's 1, 2, 3, came down retrace. I told you ahead of time I wasn't convinced that we were done developing this pattern that was like finished yet, that I expected for us to potentially come up and put in a final like third drive or a fifth wave up here. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a fifth wave, and then the fifth wave would essentially like fail to break out or be like a swing pattern failure, and then we would essentially like sell off. And then the other thing I specifically had spoken about, and that was before we even came down here, any of this. So then when we came down and essentially put in this higher low right here, this was my indication that we were going higher. We were at a key support, on essentially like this green trend line on the bottom here. We were at this key support. The oscillators had come down here and looked like they were getting to reset. The knife had already come out the bottom right here. And then we got this right here is like a candlestick reversal pattern. You see like a red candle with a wick on the bottom, and then you see a green candle with like the exact same wick on the bottom, and then it started holding support too. So that was indication. And then also, like I said, it appeared over time like we were going to get this cross. And look, a lot of times you'll see that push up to avert the cross. And then finally, I always look out for this one. Whenever the histogram on the TJD TD MACD is about to cross below the moving average, or vice versa, if it's below and it's about to cross above, a lot of times you see that bounce reversal. So essentially you're about to lose this bullish trend if the red goes underneath here and we bounce it. It bounces the trend. And same thing if you're in a bearish trend and then it's like going up, and then it will bounce it back down and revert back to the bearishness. All right, so those two things, aside, obviously like those indicators, moving averages, and these are like more my style specifically, and obviously like these are my specific indicators, all available for free on TradingView. And if you haven't taken the time yet to get those, I highly recommend that you do. And also like and subscribe this video. Help your boy out, get the name out there, share. But anyway, my point is that if you're not taking the time to actually like load up TradingView and pull up a chart and draw a couple lines and throw up an indicator yourself, you're being lazy. Like, especially if you're putting any kind of substantial amount of money in this, other than just like gambling with a couple dollars, you need to take it seriously. So, I mean, if you want to make money in this space and you want to be a successful trader, how many books have you read? How many hours a day do you spend just charting? Like, that's the best way to learn, is to just pull up a random chart you've never even heard of before, and then just start drawing like resistance and support and stuff, and then go back and look at that same random chart a month later and see if it was relevant. You know what I mean? Just chart. That's when you start realizing, like, that's why I like to have these two things here. Like, I have basically two areas. I drew in this blue. You remember when I drew all this in way back when? So if we didn't get a confirmed candle close, basically above the orange, below the purple, that's like our area we're focusing on the top. And then on the bottom, we have a differentiation. We don't have that parallel like that. We have two different angles. And the green is like the overall trend slope, the parabolic slope. And then you'll see at one point in time, we start to elevate the slope. You draw the blue in. And then we, once we bounce this area, you start drawing the blue in. And then we bounce up to the top, and we come back down, we find support. Same thing. And then we break down below it, we get bearish there, find support on our bottom line right here, and then bounce up. What do we expect to happen? We expect it to retest the breakdown. It retests it, comes back down, retests it, and it's going to try to break up above it again. And now what we're looking for to happen right here is, and it's already happened. We've already got what we wanted. Been waiting like days for this to happen. It's already happened. So I'm gonna explain that to you in a second. But potentially, what we're looking to happen is somewhere in this area right here is our reversal. We're basically looking for the reversal at a like between 72 and like 7600. So in between where we're at right now and the 2 moving averages on the 4-hour time frame. And I'm going to switch over to traditional chart with nothing on it, and I'm going to show you why we've been waiting for this and why I'm paying attention to this and why this is the most important thing to me. 1-hour time frame is not really substantial, so I don't really count it for much. I might flip to it like if I'm looking for a good entry, just so I'm not like taking drawdown right away, or if I'm looking for like some short-term like kind of resolution if I'm unsure the direction or whatever. So the 4 hours is really like the first time frame I look at, but really I'm looking at like, I'm looking for 4 hour for like quick little trades or whatever, swing trades, a couple of days, but the daily is really what I'm looking for. But anyway, what we've been looking to happen right now is I have the traditional indicators up, RSI, stochastic, and MACD. Been looking for divergence on this whole move. Because what we like to see is 1, 2, 3, 4, a 5th stab up, develop divergence, and then we can get that massive sell-off. Because remember, everybody's getting bullish again. We're still in a gigantic bear trend. All this is our relief rally off of the dump. Oh my gosh. What the hell? Alright, so real quick before I get onto these indicators and I show you what we've been looking for, look where we're at now. We're at that purple resistance line again, and what happened last time we were at that purple resistance line? We sold off. So let me just draw another one of these in here, and then I'm going to explain to you why we have so many levels of confluence right now that, we basically have to take a trade to the downside. Alright, so we made it back to the first time when we bounced up here. We made it to 618, and we just fell short on Coinbase. Remember we had talked about that, but we made it on Bitstamp. So that's our very high likelihood reversal area. And now we're potentially moving up here again to put in like a double top. We're hitting this purple resistance downtrend line. We're at the 0.5 for the entire structure. If we swing down here to the entire bottom and then back up, that's the white one right here, all the way from 14,000 down to 4,000. That's the white one, and we're at the 0.5 right now. So that's the 0.5, and that's the 618 is of just this move right here that we did. So that's 2 key fib levels of the 2 most relevant swings. This previous key swing and then the overall swing of the move itself. And then on top of that, we are going to, I'm going to zoom out one more time. Sorry to be like changing all these time frames and going nuts, but I just want to show you like in perspective. So we came down here originally to 786 and found support, bounced it all the way back up, and look where we are right now. We're almost back to the 618. That's our 618 right here at 7,400. So anywhere in that range, anywhere in this range is our key level. And then finally, the purple right here is the top of our channel. So we basically have like 5 points of confluence like right here in this zone for that to essentially be like our top and final like sell-off area. And then not to mention, on top of that, I'm switching back to the 4 hour here. And again, this is the most important thing, is we were looking for divergence to develop. And while everyone else forgot about divergence because we didn't make a video for a whole day, we were just paying attention, waiting for it to happen. And what I'm going to show you is on these 3 indicators, how it's relevant for each one of them, okay? So look, we have now a positive slope. Not by much, okay? Not by much. But assuming we just topped out right here and we just start dumping off, okay? This is a positive slope. Now, if you count from the wick down, we have a negative slope, but we're not doing that. We're counting candle closes because that's how you measure it, especially for RSI first. So this is that same point right here, and that's where we're at right now, getting ready to potentially top out. That's higher than that. Price action is equal to or higher on this side. So in the RSI, it's higher here. Price action. Matter of fact, just to extra illustrate this, I'm going to make these ones green. Where it's higher, it's going to be green. So that's green right there. And then let's go to this one. Same situation again. We're potentially looking to top out right here. And as soon as, like, I mean, these look really close right now, but as soon as we get like a big selling wick in, it's going to drag this down, and then it'll be like very obvious what was happening the whole time. All right, so here we have it. I mean, so we have basically 3 places where, you know, on the oscillator indicators, this is higher, and then in real life, you know, this point is actually higher based on confirmed candle closes. So as we move up here, like the higher we get, the stronger the divergence is and the more evident it is. And once we take out this wick right here at 71.74, a lot of people will use the wicks, even though you should never use the wick on RSI. Like it's a fact because it's calculated based on candle closes. So the wicks are pointless. They're not taken into account in these indicators. So there's no reason to like use them in like the price action on the chart, if that makes sense. But regardless, like anything, some people just prefer to do things their way or are uneducated and just do them incorrectly. So it is important to understand this, and then again, you can have a better understanding of like what everyone is looking at. Because I always want to have like the full scope of everything. So it's very important to understand like what other people are thinking, like, you know, what the masses might be thinking, or, you know, if there's an important meeting going on right now and you're likely to see like, you know, a big burst one direction in price action. So you need to be paying attention, like whatever the case may be. So, but yeah, regardless, I'm expecting at some point in time in the very near future, essentially for us to test up to the upside, and then you know, basically like top this trend out, get our max out on all 3 of the oscillator indicators on the 4-hour, finally like print that divergence, and then you know, essentially get that sell off and continue to trend to the downside. I mean, just remember, you know, we basically did a 61.8% retrace of the dump from high to low right here. So if we break through the 61.8 and go to the next target, I mean, that's all the way back up here at 8,400. I don't think 8,400 is as likely right now, but I think we could get as high as like 74 to 7,600. But again, I mean, we're right at the top of that downward sloping trend line. We're right at the 0.5 of the entire move. There's definitely a lot of confluence between the channel and everything. Price action could basically roll over at any time. I think this is the kind of time where you like to pay attention to the alts as well, because a lot of times like one of the lower cap altcoins will end up being like, you know, a leading indicator by, not by much usually, but sometimes you can kind of see it like leading price action. So I always try to pay attention to some of the higher cap coins as well, just to kind of see like if they're showing more like weakness or strength. So well, there you have it, guys. Just a quick one today. Crypto Trend Trader. Want to talk about divergence a little bit, what we're looking for, and how we expect it to play out. And you know what? While we're here too, when we do top out, this is going to change a lot, obviously, based on where we top out. But you know, assuming we just put in a common retrace and we continue to the upside, right now, if we came down to the 618, would basically be 4,900. 0.5 would be like 5,200. And 382 would be that same resistance support at like 5,700. So any one of those would be like the common retrace. If we pushed up as high as like, let's say we pushed like all the way up to like 7,500, let's say roughly, we would expect to come back down anywhere from the 5,840 to 5,000 range. So we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, we're just going to pay attention to, you know, candlestick pattern, topping out, indicator oscillators, rolling over, divergence, printing, and then, you know, once we are starting to roll over here, we'll check our moving averages, and, you know, we can obviously look for confluence amongst them as well and see how we react to the bottom of the channel here. But I do think it's very likely you know, that we could essentially like bounce around in here a little bit, get potentially like one more stab up, and top out at the 200 moving averages, and then get our sell off. Or depending on, you know, how much strength or weakness like the traditional markets show, as they're getting ready to open up here as well. You know, anything could happen, but you know, we'll just look for the weakness to start developing on the indicators right here, TJD, TD MACD, and the Jewel Thief, and then you know, we basically have already pointed out the divergence on the traditional indicators, RSI, stochastic, and traditional MACD. So there you have it, guys. See how it plays out. Crypto Turn Trader, and I'm out of here.